Hey, what's going on, everybody? Emmett Ferguson here, and I just finished doing my 8.59 mile run, and the pacing was about 9:32. Let me see if I can get that. 9:32. Hopefully, you can see that at some point if you pause the video. But anyway, I wanted to talk about the running routine that I've been doing that got me to this point, and the amazing feeling that I had at about 8 miles in. Just my entire body just got this like crazy tingling sensation, which is so interesting because we talk about runner's high, or runners talk about runner's high, and that feeling that we get, just that good feeling. But rarely do I ever get this sensation, to just like this energy, this tingling, this very interesting sensation that just overcame my entire body on the 8th mile, just before I was finished. And it just blew my mind. It blows my mind because it takes that long to reach that point, and for whatever reason it took that long. But anyway, it was incredible, and I had a good run today. But in terms of the routine that got me to 8.59 miles per day, for anyone that wants to try it, I call it 5 by 1, which is 5 days on, 1 day off. And each week, or not week, but it's 6 days, right? So you do a 5 days on, 1 day off, 5 days on, 1 day off. So in 1 week, you'll probably run somewhere between 5 to 6 days per week. And each of those 5 sessions, so 5 days on, 1 day off, you add 1 mile, or depending on where you're at in your fitness, you add a quarter mile, a half mile, or whatever it is that you decide to do. So say you're starting off at, like, you can't run even a half a mile, then you might want to start with a quarter mile per day for 5 days, then take a break, and then up that by a quarter mile the next day. And it'll feel like a lot at first. So you're going to do a half mile for 5 days and then 1 day off, and then 0.75 miles for 5 days and then 1 day off. And you quickly increase. So I started this about 5 weeks ago. I was at about 2.5 miles per day. I started off, and I was at about like a 10 minute, 11 minute per mile pace. And now I'm down to about 9:30 for 8.5 miles, as you can see here. So 9:30 for 8.59 miles. And just to show some proof, I'm a guy that likes proof. Previous day I ran about a 5K, official 5K for the Turner Trot out in Los Angeles. Before that, Saturday I ran 7.6 miles, Friday 7.58, Thursday 7.62, August 30th 6.72, August 29th 6.74. So knocked out. I've been increasing week by week by week, and it feels absolutely amazing. Now I will say that yesterday I took a break. The day before I only ran a 5K, and I pushed myself to try to run a little bit faster than I typically do. So I didn't do a full 7 miles, but I have to say that was refreshing after a full 4 to 5 weeks of this, because it was crossing my mind of how am I going to start to increase speed if every week I'm increasing distance. And it's really hard to increase speed if you're increasing distance every single time, unless you're doing some type of routine or you're doing intervals or whatever. But time considerations, like with work and everything, you got to figure out how you can maximize your time. And for me, that was just running straight through, knocking out all my miles as early as possible. So with that said, just some considerations. This is an interesting thing you can try, and it doesn't take any sort of coaching. Of course, you want to talk to a doctor to make sure that you can do it and that you're healthy enough to be able to move. But if you can't run, walk. If you can't walk, or if you can't run, jog. If you can't jog, walk fast. If you can't walk fast, walk. If you can't do those things, do what you can. Walk to the refrigerator or something. I don't know, whatever that is. But with that said, this has been a routine that's been very helpful to me. And here's something that's interesting that I came across, is this topic of who you listen to. And it took me a long time to get this, to reach a point where I was more selective about the people that I listen to, and how it can be so helpful in your life. And this doesn't mean that you have to pick the most successful people in the world. For example, I've had people tell me when I first started running that oh, you have knee pains? And I still get some knee pains in the first quarter to a mile, and eventually it goes away. But I was talking about knee pains to somebody who was studying to be some type of healthcare professional. And this is just, my approach to things. You should always, speak to a healthcare professional and go by whatever the doctor recommends or whatever. Don't listen to the random person talking about it on YouTube. But I talked to this person. They were saying to me how oh, knee pain, that's bad. You should stop. And in my head, I'm like, that's bullshit, because the only way, it wasn't like a serious type of knee pain. It wasn't like debilitating. And, I looked at this person and I thought to myself, well, this person avoids the discomfort that's required to get to a point of better fitness, to where that pain simply just isn't there anymore. And it's so interesting to think that there's a lot of people there that let that simple barrier, that the first 20 minutes of a run, stop them from going further. And it stopped me for a long time too. On the other hand, I was running by a homeless person today, and they told me to run faster. And at first I wanted to be offended. I wanted to be like, well, who are you, right, to tell me to run faster? But at some level, I had to be more accepting of what that person was saying, rather than a person telling me to stop running just because my knees were aching for the first little bit. Anyway, just something to consider when you're exercising, who you decide to listen to, who you decide to take advice from, who you decide to let into your head is who you're ultimately going to aspire to, in a sense. Not that you're going to aspire to become that person, but the ideas, the perspectives, their opinions, are gonna go into you, and you're either gonna have to accept those ideas or reject them. And ultimately, that's gonna help you become more fit. So, with that said, these are just some thoughts that helped me get to an 8.59 mile. I'm gonna be running 4 more days of this, and then increasing to 9, and then 10, and then got a half marathon in November to do. Haven't quite gotten up to marathon distances yet, but we'll get there. And with that, thank you for watching, and I wish you great fitness. Bye-bye.